Jared here. I have a special promotion for one of my favorite comedy clubs I've ever been to, Sunshine City Comedy Club and Clearwater Comedy Club. If you ever want to come check out a show, which you totally should, just go to the description, go to the website, and enter Jared for $5 off. This code is always going to be good as long as I don't get kicked out of this place. So please, please, please come and see me. Come and see my friends. I think you'll love it, and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Welcome to Your Only Friends, where we discuss all things comedy, but friendship is always first. I'm here with a very special friend, Mr. Kenny Garcia.
Hey, Jared, how are you?
I'm doing good, Kenny. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just found out your middle name.
I was curious about your name as well. Is Kenny short for Kennard or anything like that? Or
Kennard?
Kennard Garcia.
Kennard Garcia?
Like Leonard, but with Kenny.
No. It's the first time you've made me laugh.
Okay,
It's
awesome.
good.
This is getting pretty good already.
No, it's just Kenny.
Kenny.
For me personally, I believe Kenny normally is short for Kenneth, not Kennard.
Kennard.
But yeah, Kenny is just my name.
And you always been Kenny.
Well, my name is Kenny.
Yeah.
It's not short for anything.
You haven't changed it.
I haven't changed. I was born Kenny.
You identify as Kenny
I
Garcia.
also identify as Kenny because I am Kenny.
Yes. And I've honestly never met too many people that are more Kenny than you.
I feel like a Kenny to you?
Yeah, when we were at the farmer's market and you kept on bringing up how like you love your personality.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's really true, actually.
Thank
you have
you.
a great personality.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I do want to get serious for a second. Thank you. I want to express some gratitude.
Yeah, it's about time.
If I didn't call you, I think it was July 28th for an open mic, and to hear your beautiful voice over that iPhone that I called, the business line.
The business line.
Not your personal cell.
I kept that. We record all of our messages, and I have that.
Do you really?
I do. I have it on the other business phone, but we threw it in the garbage.
Okay. Yeah, so, as it deserves.
Yeah, but I do remember you coming by. You were very earnest, and you were actually funny the first night, so that was surprising.
It's been very progressively worse from there. That was the night that MJ's roast was, if you remember.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And yeah, I think I was talking to Kiki. She was there for that. She remembered me that night.
Crazy.
Never talked to her until like a year later. Kiki, the bartender from Sunshine.
She sure is one of our favorites.
Absolutely. And you are the owner of Sunshine City Comedy Club and Clearwater Comedy Club.
I am. That's crazy to say out loud sometimes, huh? I own 2 comedy clubs.
But, I mean, you never expected that because you've done stand-up for, 16, 17 years on tour or road?
Yeah, I did stand-up for a long time, for 16 years. And no, I never expected to open a comedy club. I thought stand-up would go so well, I would never have to come to the other side. I would just be doing stand-up and getting to tell jokes all the time.
So when you were on tour, that was never, like, even a thought? You were chasing the comedian spotlight.
I wanted to be a headliner, and are we gonna get right into this? I mean, we're just gonna. This is how
this is how it goes. This is how it goes, man. I'm curious.
Yeah. So basically, for me, I was a touring stand-up, and I was opening for some big names, which I was pretty fortunate to do. And I like making money. There's extra time in the day, when you do stand-up at night. And I was like, I got to maximize what I do with these days. So I started producing my own shows at like unique venues around the country, like breweries, wineries, and distilleries.
And that was during COVID, no?
This was before COVID.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This was like 2016. So like I would have a schedule set up, and I'd book myself on a show at like a winery. And then I would just find like 2 people to open for me. And then I would just make money off of like the door sales, and it was like pretty good. And then the venue would be like, "Hey, come back and do another show," and I would be like, "Well, I can't do a brand new hour in a month."
Yeah.
But I was like, "Can I send you someone else to like headline?" And then I was like, "Oh, I'll just pay them, and then they'll bring some openers." And then that's kind of what I started doing, and then that kind of like ballooned and exploded, I would say, and I was doing pretty well with it. I was producing 30 shows a month around the country and not even going to any of them.
Wow.
And so that was like really good, like not residual.
20 or 30 a month?
Like 30 or 40 a month, actually,
Whoa.
to be honest. And it was really good. And it was just hard. Like it's hard because I would never show up to the venue, so it would look to them as if you weren't working hard. But all the work was done behind the scenes to get people to show up to the shows. So the shows themselves were very vulnerable, like to being pilfered and stolen by like other comedians or other show producers. And so you would get like sometimes you'd get in with a pretty good venue and you could set up a good team over there. But I kind of recognized, pretty early that like there was a shelf life on a venue before eventually people begrudged the fact that you could make money without showing up at the venue,
Yeah.
So that happened to me.
So at that point, that was probably like one of the first times that you went business with comedy, if that makes sense. Whereas like,
yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I would say that was the first time I started seeing like, oh wow, like ticket sales really add up quickly. And so then what happened during COVID was I was putting all of my shows on Eventbrite, and Eventbrite would give a breakdown of like how much they were making per show. And it was like, it was like $200-300 per show. And I was like, well, if I'm doing 40 shows a month,
yeah,
I would rather do that. And
Oh,
make that. I
man.
would like to figure out a way to make that extra money. And so I ended up during COVID figuring out a way to create a ticketing system for myself so that when I produced these shows, I could like make money on the processing fees. And then that's when everything kind of exploded for me. So like I was
Wow.
producing the same amount of shows and getting to make this extra money on the processing fees on these tickets. And then my head just kind of like spun completely around. It was like,
wow,
not only can you make some money on these tickets, but each ticket, you can just charge a processing fee. Every ticketing everyone's just used to paying a processing fee. And so that like was the big game changer for me.
So at what point did you think like physical location? Why physical location from running a system like that?
Just for the sheer volume of shows you could do from a physical location. So like I had approached the smaller comedy club in Michigan about potentially doing their website and their tickets. And the plan back then was just to I was starting to get pretty decent at like creating a website. So again, the template was, do stand up at night, make that living, and then during the day kind of have this other living that was still very much associated with stand up, but more the business side of it. So the goal was to like start accumulating a couple of comedy clubs, but just to do their tickets and like to maybe do their marketing. And so then an opportunity came up where I could kind of buy into like, buy a comedy club essentially, like buy a space where we could have a comedy club. And it just was like a lot of things were happening at the right time.
And you were already living in St. Petersburg when that opportunity arose,
Yeah, I was living
right?
in St. Pete, and there was a comedy club there before, and their relationship with the person that they were subleasing from was coming to an end because the person wanted to sell their bar. And they kind of approached me because I had expressed some interest in potentially like buying the comedy club. And then that turned into also buying the bar. And so
Because they were separate at Sunshine.
well, the guy owned the bar. It wasn't Sunshine. It was Coconuts before. So
Exactly.
a guy owned the bar, and he was subleasing his space to Coconuts. So they were all parting ways with each other. And so I was going to just basically take over the comedy part and just kind of run the door and just buy into that. But then the guy was also burnt out running the bar and asked if I would be interested in also purchasing the bar. And so about after 2 weeks of, doing Sunshine with no bar sales and I could see how much drinks we were selling.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. We got to buy this bar.
And it makes it such a better environment. Like,
Yeah, I think when, before, not to speak too much about like the past, I'm not a big past guy, but like before, the two businesses were kind of operating separate. They were operating individually. They were in the same basically location. It was the same exact setup we have now. But they were kind of operating almost in spite of each other, and they were kind of hurting each other's business. Whereas now, it's just Sunshine feels like one place.
Absolutely.
It feels like the bar area, and then it feels like, or the lounge that we call it, and then the club part. And so that's kind of what happened. And then we had a really good first year, and I was like, oh, maybe we could do this again. I think that's a pretty good business model. I think the fabric of the comedy culture is changing a little bit. Like I think big event spaces are kind of a little too scary to operate because of the overhead. And I felt like there was like a real niche market to kind of slip in with these small boutique comedy clubs that we're trying to do. And so once you kind of get them going, it doesn't take a lot to run them each day. You only need 2 people really to kind of run the place. And so, it's been working out well. The place in Clearwater, we opened up in between both hurricanes, so that's been tough. You've been a real big part of like opening of Clearwater. So that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
No, no, it's just been, I think comedy is.
When did you open up Clearwater? To let them know.
I opened up Clearwater in between both of these natural disasters. So Hurricane Helene and Milton. We were scheduled to open September 26th, which coincidentally is the day Helene made landfall.
Wow.
So then we pushed back to the following Friday. And we opened up. We had a really great first weekend. And then we had to close again for like almost 3 weeks because of Milton.
Yeah.
And then now the beach that we're on in Clearwater, the hotels are all empty. So we're just kind of treading water until we can kind of, wait for everyone on the beach to come back.
Yeah.
And people are very receptive to the addition of our club in that area. And I think it's going to do really well eventually when it kind of, when the beach kind of recuperates.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of kind of hanging on until that happens, which is like, what happens when you have a brick and mortar business. You're kind of at the mercy of the crowds. And right now, the whole business model is tourists. And, we just got to wait for them to come back.
Absolutely. But even like last night, we had an open mic there. There's an open mic every Monday. And there's those 10 walk-ins every week.
People like it. There's a little appetite for it. I think we've created an objectively cool space for people to enjoy stand-up. And so that gives us benefit of the doubt when the subjective stuff, which is the performances, whether or not they like it or not, they kind of give us the benefit of the doubt because they got to enjoy it or not enjoy it in an objectively cool place.
Yeah. I love the branding behind, you call it a boutique. Like whenever I show someone the website, they're like boutique comedy club. It like piques interest. You don't typically hear that.
I think that was very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got a lot of pushback from people on it at the beginning.
Really?
Because people were confused by it. What do you mean boutique comedy club?
Like comedians or people in the scene or just generals?
In general, what do you mean boutique comedy club? And I was like, it means whatever you want it to mean. It's just the whole point of it was to get you to be intrigued by it. You know, to kind of dig a little bit deeper. A boutique comedy club, what's that?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean a boutique comedy club? Well, come find out.
Exactly. It's not just an average franchise or something.
And then when you walk in, it kind of, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. It feels like a boutique comedy club. But just like, for me, it was just small, intimate, speakeasy. And I was trying to figure out a word that could sum all of that up. And boutique just kind of popped in.
Why do you think?
Why were you struggling with the next question just now?
Because I was going to ask something, but I
changed.
I changed. I'm going to save that one.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to save that one for towards the end in 3 hours from now. So, in terms of opening up Clearwater compared to Sunshine, like in a year from now, do you think that Clearwater will potentially have like the same success story that Sunshine had, where you think maybe looking back at this in a year from now, Clearwater will obviously be up and running and everything will be back to normal?
I'm very optimistic, and I believe wholeheartedly in intentional energy. So yeah, I think Clearwater is going to exceed what Sunshine has been. Mm-hmm. I think there's more potential at Clearwater than there is at Sunshine, and Sunshine's been great, and it's
absolutely.
There's just more potential because you get the foot traffic.
Exactly. Do you want to explain to people where it is?
So we're right on Mandalay Avenue on Clearwater Beach. We're in a really cool plaza. We face the sidewalk, whereas at St. Pete location, we're kind of in the back of a parking lot, and people have to like be heading towards us to kind of find us. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Clearwater, people can kind of stumble upon us, which I think is a bit of an advantage of getting those extra, 10 to 12 people in per show.
Absolutely.
And so the difference, though, between the two places, what I've already noticed in the first 3 weeks is that with Sunshine, people are coming to enjoy a comedy show. And at Clearwater, they're very surprised that there's a comedy show. So they're like not quite prepared to be enjoying a comedy show. So it's been a little bit more rowdy at Clearwater. And so
it has. We never really talked about that. It really has
been a little bit more rowdy. And I think that eventually that'll kind of like balance itself out. I think people will start hearing about us. They'll be very intentional about coming to the shows as opposed to like kind of being surprised by the show.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. To kind of, and I wanted to ask
all
those.
Why wouldn't you agree? It was right what I just said.
I
said it perfectly.
I think that Clearwater will surpass Sunshine. I just didn't want to say it.
You didn't want to say it out loud.
I didn't want to say it out loud. I wanted you to. It would be.
I
would
love for it to surpass it. Like you always want your kids to do well. So I want them both to do well. They both feel like my little babies. So I want them to do well.
That's good. I wanted to ask all those questions just because I wanted all 3 open micers who watch this podcast.
There's only 3?
There's going to be 4. I'm talking to one of them. He might subscribe.
Okay.
Daniel, actually. I was
cool.
talking to him yesterday.
Is this the marketing plan? Just go one by one?
Just one by one.
That's smart.
Lance actually said something really funny
What did he
on
say?
stage
He's very funny.
yesterday. Dude, he was...
Lance Weiss, everybody.
Lance Weiss.
Party with Lance Instagram.
He was...
He would do this podcast tomorrow, by the way.
Oh, well then...
You should get him on.
Alex? Okay, he does not want to do it.
Yeah,
but
fair.
I would do it.
He's checked out.
Yeah,
This guy.
Alex is checked out.
I wish you could put a camera on this guy like this.
When we do solo episodes, he's gonna be like the producer. He's gonna be in
Okay,
it. Dude.
cool.
It'll be cool. But we're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
I mean, you need help carrying the show.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I mean, that's a fair. It was very.
But Tim Dillon inspires me.
Very self-aware of you.
Thank you.
So,
Let me tell you what Lance said.
Okay, Lance Weiss.
Lance Weiss.
Okay.
He was making. All right. So first off, what I learned from Lance last night is there is no such thing as bad rooms, just bad comedians in a room.
I've been saying that to you guys, and I think it was really important for you guys to actually see a comedian pull it off.
So the room was completely done.
Done.
But crowd packed, right? Like
Yeah.
there was no
Exhausted.
reason. Yes, because they're hearing brand new dick jokes for the
Yeah,
first time and they're tired of it. Lance goes up there completely in shorts, which
Obliterates.
comedians don't wear shorts. And he's up there. Gina, who I love, the host, did something arguably debatable, which was like really pump him up that he's a headliner. And
Oh, wow.
she said like he's going to bless you with his graciousness,
Wow.
something like that. And
a little hyperbolic.
yeah, and so Lance.
Did you see me stutter on hyperbolic? That
I was gonna
wild.
breeze right past it, bro.
It's like
you
I
need
had
an Adderall,
That
dude.
was crazy. My whole face almost got paralyzed.
I thought you were having a seizure, bro.
It
I
felt
thought-
like it. That was tough. Hyperbolic.
Yeah, hyperbolic. Still don't know what it means, but Gina edified him. He went up there and completely turned the room around. People were screaming, hollering. It was the hardest I've laughed, and if you count from the summer to now,
Yeah.
hardest I've laughed in TikTok or Reels or anything like. That was the hardest I've let out a laugh. I was crying,
Yeah, he's great.
and when I was doing that, it was only me at that point, like really freaking out, like crying and like screaming.
Yeah.
He was like, I do jokes for individuals,
Yeah.
1 to 2 people at a time, and that's when I lost it as well because I'm like, dude, I don't even know if he's joking or not. He might be serious about that.
It's a good joke of his. He does that often.
He does that often.
Lance is very good. He's been doing this really long, and like he just knows how to work a room. You know, it's like the best way to compliment. The best compliment I ever got as a comic, which I do think is a really sincere compliment. Like you have to be able to change the temperature of a room. And like Lance just, he's so good at what he does that like any room that he goes in, he's going to make them come to him. He gets them onto his beat and his tempo. And I think that's like the science of doing stand-up, and he does that very well.
So I've heard you say you can either be 2 things when doing stand-up. You can be your authentic self or you can be like a character,
Yeah.
right? So would you say Lance is his authentic self or
100%.
authentic
Yeah,
self?
he's just a quirky, goofy, silly
That's awesome, man.
kind of guy. Like it's very, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he's just a goofy fella.
It was hilarious, but I really believe and then I went up there, not directly after him, after the blind dude who bombed, but I went up there
We
and
have 2 blind guys now at the club.
not BD, not the one
BD.
I like, this other
Okay,
dude. He'll
yeah.
never watch this. He doesn't use the internet
Well, he
probably.
can't see it. He's
He
blind.
can't see it as well. He's blind.
He's blind.
However, I bombed pretty much.
Okay, that's not surprising.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
And it was like really good for me, honestly.
Yeah,
Like,
why do you say that?
Because it like validated that there's no such thing as bad crowds. There's only bad comedians. And then I looked back at the audio and I was like, oh, I didn't even say the punchline for my opener. Of course, I'm going to get negative momentum.
Yeah.
I'm probably up there like I sounded like very salesy,
Yeah.
like I usually do, right? I was probably just crushing cold calls in the bathroom, honestly.
Cold claws or white claws?
White claws.
White claws.
In
That
the
was worse than
bathroom.
hyperbolic.
Yeah, I tried to say cold calls in the bathroom.
Cold calls.
Yeah, like I was cold calling people in the bathroom.
Were you?
No, but I'm always naturally salesy, I feel
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
I
it's
got
something
nails.
that I'm trying to work on.
You present very salesy. Mm-hmm.
Like a sleazeball from Jersey.
No, just like, you feel like you're trying to sell something. And it's like, I think it
I
can
got
work.
nothing to sell, bro.
It feels like it works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't work. I think it's just part of you getting your legs under you.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe wholeheartedly that there is no such. There are look, the comedian part of me would like to say there's no such thing as a bad crowd, right? Like the philosophy is, as a comedian, you're doing 200 to 300 shows a year. This crowd is only ever going to be together one time. You know, if they're ever together again, exactly the same a second time, then something's weird in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can expecting them to know how to be a crowd together is like, you know, it's hard. It would be an anomaly like that. It's almost luck that a crowd knows how to be a good crowd together. They've never been together.
Exactly.
And a good comic can like teach them how to be a crowd very quickly.
Is that why you try to bring the room together when you do crowd work, like with asking people's names and then
always? I try to unify a room. I'm very intentional about we're all doing this together. We're experiencing this together, and there can be. So I appreciate you picking up on that. Yes, it's my own ploy. Lance has his ploy, the way that he likes to do it. You know, he's very much a scientist. I feel very much when I'm on stage, I like to think of myself as like more of a maestro than a comedian. I'm trying to get everybody on the same tempo. Like, and you know, some people need like da da da, you know, and then these people over here, they need a little bit softer, and then these people need like a big giant thing.
And you're literally gauging that from their laughter, right?
I'm gauging it more from like their energy. I can like read their energy. You know, like if you're paying attention fully to everything as you should be, you should actually be doing this throughout life. I notice you've hung out with me enough. I notice everything. Nothing gets by. I've already surmised this whole room. I know everything about this room. I feel very comfortable. Like, you know, I'm gonna compliment this dude's pants later.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know,
nice
blue socks with black shoes, probably not a good look.
Yeah,
you know?
bro.
But it matches the navy blue shirt, but he's got the black shoes
Black
on.
and navy. I mean, Lewis knows that's a no-go.
So, you know, I mean, but he's thinking nobody cares, but it's like somebody's always paying attention. You know what I'm saying?
You do pay attention, but that's because you were raised in New York.
I just my head is on a swivel, baby, you know? And so, but yeah, so I bring those natural skills to when I'm on stage, you know?
Oh, yeah,
You have on terrible shoes today as well, by the way.
Well, yeah, these are my work shoes.
Yeah, I can tell.
You don't think I was actually always debating on wearing these to the club? I shouldn't.
Never outside of these.
I thought I would get roasted.
You should keep them in your desk and only wear them here.
And then walk home barefoot.
No,
right?
just bring a pair of shoes from like outside. You have really nice sneakers. Wear your nice sneakers to this office, and then walk to your desk. Take those out of the bottom drawer. Put those on. Put the sneakers that are cool in the desk. Walk around with those here, and then when you leave, to go outside so that where the rest of the world can see you. Those should never touch concrete.
Okay. I can't do that because we're luxury and we're not pedestrians here on the Jack Smith group. So I cannot change sneakers in the office. That's something a pedestrian would do.
Fair enough.
You know?
I get it. I see the mindset.
Yeah. Alex, before we go into the next part, can you get this fucking thing right here out of here, bro?
It's a mouse.
What is going on,
bro? I thought he was good at his job.
I know. It's like, how, bro?
I actually think I'm charmed by it.
What?
It feels very human to make that kind of mistake, you know?
Yeah, I was almost like, wow, this is very special. I almost debated on texting you today, like, yo, let's both wear sunglasses during the episode, but I just didn't. I knew you wanted to do it.
I wouldn't have done that. That's ridiculous.
I thought it would be like cool for like the real special episodes for like both guests to be wearing sunglasses.
We should have wore a hoodie.
A hoodie would have been cool. A hoodie would have been cool. But it's hot here in Florida, man.
It is pretty warm. I mean, you have a flannel jacket on though.
Well, this is just the aesthetic, man.
Yeah, you might want to go second button on the left breast.
Why? I mean, my boobs popping out?
No, you got right button, buttoned, but left button.
Oh, I see what you're saying, man. You pay attention to detail.
Details, baby.
Here's another thing I have for you, Kenny.
Talk to me.
One of your thesis statements.
Okay.
You already know what I'm going to say. Every time you get on stage, there's two things.
One of two things.
Hopefully
both.
Okay. Can you finish it?
Yeah, why don't you finish it?
Okay.
Actually.
Did I get better? Ask yourself. And did I have fun?
Yeah.
And you said that to me when I first like started doing open mics at the club, and that really stuck with me.
Yeah, you kind of butchered it a little bit, but
okay.
I'll clean it up.
Clean it up.
I think the objectives should be to have fun and get better. And you should be paying attention to when those things are happening, but more importantly, when they're not happening. If you're stringing together a couple of shows where you're not having fun, there's a problem. If you're stringing together a couple of shows where you're not getting better, that's another problem. Ideally, you want to be having fun and getting better at the same time. That's not always practical. But one of the two things should be happening every show.
Okay.
Ideally.
See, I actually didn't know that, honestly.
Okay.
I thought it was both need to be happening.
No, one of the two.
That's very important then.
It's if both are happening, then you're crushing it. If you're having fun and getting better every show, like my gosh, what a dream! You know? Ideally, though, like that's the ultimate goal: have fun and get better. Practically, one of the two should be happening. And then if you're stringing together too many shows where both aren't happening, then you really have to ask yourself some hard questions. And more importantly, you have to be courageous enough to answer those questions. Like, you know, you can be self-aware enough to ask the question, but you got to be courageous enough to answer the questions. And you can apply that to like any part of your life. You know?
Absolutely.
People are afraid to answer the hard questions.
So one of those hard questions is like, should I quit? You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about me, but I hear you talk about this a lot, that a lot of comedians would be happier if they just quit and gave up. Do you want to speak on that at all?
Sure. I think a lot of people hear that and think that I'm being mean to them. And I really just like, I'm a very rational, practical person. And I did stand up for a very long time. And it's a drug, and you should quit drugs. And like it's a really fun hobby. It's a beautiful hobby. The chances of like making it where you want to go are like astronomically hard, you know? Like, and then I say all of this to say that the most fun I've ever had in my entire life has been doing stand up. And it's also been pretty miserable for most of the time. You know, like, and it really, really pushes on like so much of yourself. And I actually had like some measure of success.
Absolutely.
But it's like, it really like just pushes on so many of like really negative things that you have to think about. Insecurities, you know, you're sacrificing so much time away from people you even just like, never mind the people you love. You know, it's a tough, if you're at the height of your career, think about what that kind of career looks like for you. You're literally leaving your house every Thursday, coming back on a Sunday. However, it is so much fun. Like just doing stand-up, getting to be around. I love stand-up comedians. They're my favorite kind of people. Like I just love the way their brains work. They're crazy people. They're just insane. And like all in all, like doing stand-up is like a really beautiful hobby for like most of the people that we are interacting with. And then there's like with any genre of anything, there's some people with like an incredible amount of talent. And then even those people are gonna have a hard time making it. In a way that like would validate them in a real way. And so the quitting is more of a teasing thing, like just being like, you know, hey, this shit's gonna be really hard. Yeah. And then I think people also will they might lose sight of the fact that I also will say to them, but I'm here and I will help you as best I can. And I mean that sincerely. Like I want them to kind of get as much out of the hobby that they're pursuing as possible. I want them to like, you know, like I said, I had so much fun doing stand-up. I got so many really beautiful stories and experiences from it, and I wouldn't trade those for the world. You know what I mean? Like they were fantastic. You wouldn't do it any other way? If I would have do it any other way, I probably would have never started stand-up. Think about how smart you are. You're a smart guy. Thank you. Right? And you're investing so much time and energy in this other thing that's really not making you any money. It's taking money away from you. And so I'm about to break even, hopefully soon. It's a long way from breaking even. So think about the science, the mental science about what you're doing a hobby. Most hobbies will take money away from you. Yeah. Most hobbies take time away from you. You know, most hobbies will take energy away from you. And then that's just kind of what it is. It's a hobby. And then what you're saying, and this is like the craziness of it all, is what you're saying is, you want to turn this hobby that's literally siphoning your bank account, and you're like, I'm going to make this my full-time income one day. Think about how absurd that is. It's like all this thing has ever done so far is just siphon money from you. Yeah. And your brain is like, I'm going to turn this into a career. Yeah. It's like having a heroin addiction and being like, I'm going to make 6 figures off of heroin. I'm going to just take this heroin addiction and I'm going to turn it into my career. I'm going to figure out a way to make money on doing heroin. Like, think about how absurd that sounds. Yeah. Wow. And yet, everyone in the circle, in the scene, is like, let's go, baby. Yeah. Let's figure out a way how to make a living doing heroin. Yeah. And, like, it's absurd. But it's like, what the problem is that, like, you know, we see the guy doing heroin on a Netflix special, and you're like, I can do that. I'm gonna do that. I do heroin, and I think I'm on the path to being able to do heroin as well as that guy can do heroin. So like that's just kind of like where everything is at.
Oh my god.
And that's why you should quit. Heroin's bad for you.
Yeah, heroin
but also
is very
really,
bad.
really good, probably.
Yeah. Oh
So-
my god.
And think about the feeling you get when you come off of stage. You have a really good set. You're like, oh my god, that felt so good. You're like flying high.
Yeah.
And then the next day you come, you do a shitty show, and you're like so low. That's
Yep.
drugs, bro. Up and down. And then you look at it like, fuck, I lost $25 today.
Yeah.
I lost $30 today. I paid for parking.
I paid gas.
I had to pay for gas. That girl asked me out on that date. I couldn't go on that date because I wanted to go to the open mic.
Yeah.
You know, like think about all of those things combined. You know, like it's like, but you're doing it because you love it so much.
Over or under probably like 50 family and friends events you've missed out on throughout the 16.
And then think about when you're doing it as a career. Like, I mean, when you get to that level, hopefully, everything is on a Saturday. Everything is on at nighttime.
Yeah.
You know, and then they'll be like, oh, come to I'm like, no, I got work. Well, just miss the show. I'm like, no, I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then I'm in another city.
Yeah.
So for me to go miss that, I got to miss the whole week's worth of work to go to your,
Yeah.
birthday party. Give me a break. You think I'm going to do that?
Oh my gosh. But people understand at some point, right?
No, people will be
Even
like,
if you were like, hey, I'm with Tracy Morgan or whoever.
whatever.
the hell.
They don't understand. People don't, because they don't value it unless they see like, you're on TV, or they can't comprehend like that you're
Unless
actually
you're
doing-
on Comedy Central
Yeah, like
or something.
it's a very, very weird art form. I remember when I first moved here to Tampa, I did like a show, one of my own shows at like an independent venue. I was like still doing stand up pretty regularly, and I felt very sharp. And I invited a bunch of people. I was going to like Lifetime Gym, and I invited a bunch of people that I was like
cool.
friends with at the gym, and they all came to a show. It was like 60, 70 people. It was really wonderful.
Oh, wow.
It was really cool. And then we all went for like dinner afterwards or drinks. And then someone in the crowd was like a friend of a friend, and he was like really blown away by how good I was and surprised that I was actually really funny, and he had such a great time, and that he had never heard of me before. And he asked a very sincere, genuine question. He was like, what does it look like for you to make it? You're so funny. What does it mean that you, what does making it look like for you? Like, what do you got to do to make it?
Yeah.
And I was offended by the question
Oh.
because I was like, I thought about it for a second, and I was like, oh, it's interesting. Like, I actually do feel like I've made it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm paying my bills with stand up. I've got a car with stand up. Like, I have a viable income coming in because of stand up. Like, I have made it, but I also understood where he was coming from with the question. Like, it was hard for him to understand that making it can just look different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think if he had asked me the question 2 years before, I would have been like, offended and wanted to kill him, or even myself. Like, it was like, but like, that's just, I was grateful to be in a place where I could like, hey, look, I actually feel like I have made it. And then it was also scary to be like, oh man, am I settling on a career? Like, I think ambition is very important, but too much ambition can get a little scary.
At that point in time, you were fulfilled, no?
I think I was like at the apex of feeling fulfilled, but on the way down to feeling unfulfilled, which was a conduit to like wanting to stop touring with stand up and move into another venture financially. Money was becoming very important to me as I was getting older. And like, there's really no job security as a opener. There's just, you don't have no contracts. You're just kind of at the whim of other people giving you work.
But see, I always thought that openers would like eventually headline.
You would hope that that's like the natural
Preconceived notion,
chronology, but it's, like, I mean, the game, if you will, of stand-up has really changed. There's no like, you're not there's no one corporate entity that's like promoting features to headliners. Like the judge and the jury is a crowd. Like, can you bring a crowd to a show? Like, are people around the country willing to pay every weekend to watch you perform? That's the living. That's cultivating your own career. And you can do that from a camera. You can do that from a telephone, I don't think they say telephone anymore. They say
cell phone.
Cell phone,
Yeah.
my bad. So you can do that from a cell phone. And so you can just cultivate a career from a cell phone. And like, if 1,200 people will pay in a weekend to go watch you perform every weekend, now you have a career. And so getting 1,200 people to pay in different cities and states to watch you play, watch you do stand-up, that's like really, really hard to do. I have
Absolutely.
so much respect for anyone that can do that.
Well, even I think what you did opening for some great people, like for 16 years and all the experiences you had, like that's more than making it, in my opinion.
I think I'm grateful for like the people that I got to work with, and I learned so much. And I also learned, for no matter how funny I was or felt that I was still very, very, very far from like being where they were, which was also like really scary.
Really?
Not in terms of like talent or what I was producing on stage, but I mean in terms of like cultivating an audience.
A following, yeah.
The whole game of stand-up is cultivating an audience. Like, you can be the funniest person, but if no one thinks that you're funny or funny enough...
knows about you.
Or even just funny enough to connect. Like, there's a real science. Or like I don't even know if it's a science. It's just like an unearthed science. Like, there's just... I think of it as a mystery. I don't know if I knew the potion to put it together to get people to connect and love you. Because that's really what it is. You're trying to get people to like either really, really like you.
Yeah.
But hopefully love you. That's like people who spend money on people that they love. And so...
Like Shane Gillis just dropped his tour today. People are going nuts about it.
They love him. People love Apple. Like you'll buy anything from them. People love Chappelle. He puts out or whatever. They're paying attention. He's on the conscious, and like if you really like someone, you'll maybe think about whether or not you want to like go get tickets to them, But if you can figure out a way to get people to really love you, then like you figured out 3/4 of the game, and then it's just accumulating more and more people.
Why do you think? I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Why do you think there's such a difference between like the great like Theos and then maybe an opener like? In terms of their audiences, like what is that gap? I know no one has an answer for it.
Theo specifically is just such a unique, not only performer, but like a podcaster, which is where I think he like really exploded. Like Theo's like a really beautiful study and like stand-up, like just a really, really strong stand-up for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like probably like over 20 years before he even blew up.
That's what I heard.
And
I was very surprised.
Then started a podcast, and it slowly but surely started building up this incredible momentum with the podcast. And then the podcast explodes. And then now people are coming to see him do stand-up based off of the podcast and are extremely rewarded because of how funny he was on stage. Think about like what's happening now. People are like getting hot with these like crowd work videos, and then they start a podcast. Maybe that does great, and then now people come to see their stand up for an hour, and they're just like, that was like whatever. Whereas like guys like Joe Rogan and like some of these Joey Diaz, like some of the guys whose podcasts really, really exploded, they were already really great stand ups.
Absolutely.
And so when their podcast, when the podcast hit, and then people were now paying to come see them at like whatever comedy club around the country, they were just so rewarded with like such a great show.
Yeah, I've heard that Theo specifically was doing stand-up for like years and years
over
and
20
years.
years, I think, somewhere in that
before the podcast, right?
I met him right when his podcast was starting to like explode. Like right now, it's like ginormous, like 7 million followers or whatever the case may be. But like when I first met him, he went from like a really great gauge is just ticket sales. You do a comedy club. Pre-COVID, it was like, you would do it 1 show Thursday, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday. You do 300 times 6 shows. What is that? That's 1,800?
I think.
That's 1,800 tickets you got to sell. So you can really get a good gauge. Now you're in like Charlotte, North Carolina. You put out the 6 shows, and you've sold out 4 of them. Whew, wow, that's great. 4 shows are sold out. The other 2 shows are like 210, 180. Like those are like really powerful numbers. And then that turns into like, bro, we sold out all 6 shows. Do you want to add a 7th show?
Yeah.
Do you want to add an 8th show? Like, that's like when things are like really, really starting to get powerful with an audience.
Yeah.
And then you get to, and then now what you're trying to do, the next step is like, is that going to be every market for you? And so that's when it becomes like really hard. Like maybe you just have connected with a certain market in Madison, Wisconsin, and you're able to sell out there. And then now you start thinking of like, all right, well, cool. If I can sell 1,800 tickets for 5 shows or 6 shows, maybe I can just do one theater show for 1,600 people. And then that's kind of how like the game evolves. So yeah, I mean, and that when I first met Theo, he went from like, oh, that 5th show might sell out, to like, hey, are you cool if we do a 7th and an 8th show? And you're like, yeah, dude, whatever.
And do those shows sell out sometimes?
Yeah, and then like
too?
it's
Wow.
just like they want it all. They want 3 shows on Saturday. They want the really late show Friday.
Now,
It's insane.
as like an opener, you're getting paid per show, right? So that's a good thing for you,
You're
obviously.
getting paid per show, you know,
per performance, rather.
per performance, who you're working with. Where you're really trying to make money as an opener is by selling your own merch.
You had merch, didn't you?
I had merch, and then, you know, when you work with some really big names, they don't want you to sell merch. They want you to help them sell their merch.
Exactly.
But they're giving you money for it.
Absolutely. You got to cut.
Or sometimes you're like, you know, I think the really secure headliner is just, yeah, sell your merch. I don't care. I'm 100 times funnier than you anyway. People are going to buy my stuff before they'll buy your stuff. And for me as an opener, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to make the money you're making this weekend, but I don't need to make the money that you're making this weekend. I just would like to make some money.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of how you start to scratch out a career.
Well, I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, you got a long road ahead of you.
I have a very long road.
I tell people all the time, like, yeah, you guys are all at the stage where eventually you have to run a marathon, but right now you're training to run the marathon.
Yeah.
Which is like very daunting to think about.
Whoa, you know, Kenny, I've heard you say that literally probably 10 times, and I've never really thought like about what you were saying when saying that. So you're saying that the race hasn't even started yet, essentially.
Yeah, but you guys think you are already running the race, which is like kind of funny to think about.
Yeah.
But like you guys are just training to run the race. The race hasn't started yet.
When would you say the race has started for someone?
The race has started when you're like starting to like get booked on like shows that are putting a little bit of money in your pocket, where you can start to see like the tangible results of like the
When
training.
you're profiting.
Not when you're necessarily profiting. It's just like where people are like really taking notice, where you're like, oh, Jared is killing it. I need to have him on this show. And it's like, and this scene is hard because there's not like a lot of really like hot, good shows. You know, and there are different reasons in this scene why you might get booked. So they call it like, I think for me, the race would start when you were like, oh, I feel really good on stage. Like I feel like I have my legs under me when I'm on stage. I'm not uncomfortable. I can hold my own with my peers. And I'm starting to like, you know, get a little bit of income coming in from this. Not necessarily groundbreaking money, just like enough to like, you know, oh, they want me to drive 2 hours. They're paying me $50. Okay, I can, you know, take that. Like this is a business in the beginning. So you got to take those $50 gigs, you know, you're just trying to get experience, you know?
Yeah, man.
I thought the podcast was doing well. What's with the creaky chairs?
The creaky chairs?
Yeah, like I thought it was going well.
You know
in
what,
here.
dude, I want to address this. Like, we have all this brilliance here, and then it's like we have these little fucking chairs.
Is this a Keller Williams problem?
Yeah, this is a Keller Williams problem.
I gotta sell some more homes.
Don't talk down.
No, I love Keller Williams, and thank you for providing the space to to do this podcast, and so Jared can fulfill all of those dreams of being a podcast host.
They actually were Gary Keller's nonprofit. Enrolled me into
this is a Make-A-Wish podcast?
It was the Make-A-Wish podcast. No, Gary Keller's nonprofit did pay for comedy coaching, which has been working very well for me.
Good. All right, I remember that.
And you didn't like me back then, for the record.
I was a little freaked out by you.
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah, you have a very weird, you don't give a good first impression.
Well, back then I probably didn't give a good first impression. I think I give really good first impressions now, if you know what I'm talking about.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah. But back then, definitely. I mean, I had to stop comedy. It was going so crazy in my brain. So
yeah, I think you were.
When I came back, I was like a little bit more myself.
In the beginning, you gave off like serial killer vibes.
Definitely.
Or like, you know, you would self-harm vibes.
Yeah.
I prefer self-harm.
Yeah.
You self-harm yourself, then you harm anyone
Of course,
else.
and that's probably why you were so concerned.
And when you disappeared, my presumption was
that I moved back to Jersey, right?
No, self-harm.
Oh.
I thought it was. And I was like, oh, I could see. I wasn't surprised.
Oh, my God. Thank you, man. Thank you for
I'm
that.
glad to see you here.
Yeah, man.
I made it to the other side of that.
Bro, and now I'm doing a podcast and open mics. It's phenomenal.
I think whatever life happened for you in that time, you came back with a very healthy perspective on it. And you can just tell it's very palpable in your energy and the way that you come every day to the club. Very intentional and more than anything, just like you had like kind of like a darkish cloud around you at that time.
Well, yeah, I was very like trying to figure it all out, if that makes sense, about comedy. And then one day I realized,
felt like you had other life stuff going on too. Like, there was like a cloud around you, and the cloud was like, this guy's gonna
burst.
This guy's gonna do some crazy shit, bro.
Yeah, I would have probably crushed.
Be careful with this guy. He's like weird energy, bro. Joe, make sure all the cats come back with the 4 legs.
Oh my God.
But then now you're like good. You're like bright.
Yeah.
Good energy. It's
energy. I'm running the doors this weekend.
You got people like you.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's nice. What a turnaround.
I'm grateful, man.
Comeback play of the year.
Dude, if we do Sunshine, that would be cool. Sunshine City Comedy Awards.
Yeah, we could do that.
Maybe like that could be like the New Year's Eve show.
Yeah, let's do that.
No, we should actually do that.
I think it's a great idea.
I think like the bomb of the year.
I just said
bomber of the year.
Great idea.
Great, man.
We come up with 5 or 6 categories.
Yeah, like not a lot, because it's not like one of those competitions where it's like we give everyone an award.
It.
Yeah, 5
I think
or 6.
we do. I think we do both. Headliner of the year.
Yeah,
like whoever sold the most tickets.
I'm kidding. I definitely didn't.
Is that how you raise your hand? Just kind of
no, yeah, just like
that's interesting.
No,
I still can't get over that.
I had a really good
navy blue socks and the black shoes. It's off-putting, bro.
It's really crazy.
It's wild.
Kenny, I do have a personal question for you. What type of person were you in high school?
I'm the same exact person now that I was in high school.
Really?
But an evolved version of that.
So just a more expanded Kenneth.
I think Kenny. I don't go by
Kennard. I'm sorry.
Kennard. No, I was just. I'm an extrovert. I've been an extrovert since I was a little baby boy. I've always enjoyed people. I just always gravitated to people in high school. I think I was also fortunate that I had some athleticism, so that always helps when you're a young kid.
Mm-hmm. With the women?
No, just in general with like friends and like I was actually a late bloomer with the ladies.
Yeah, same. I'm still blooming.
Yeah, you still got a lot of blooming to do actually.
Thank you.
But like I was fortunate that I was a pretty decent athlete and I was like sharp and I could talk. And so I was like just a popular young kid.
Stud, dude.
Yeah,
Fucking
like
stallion.
Not like a stud. I was also the neighborhood that I grew up in would humble you in a second. I grew up in a pretty tough neighborhood in New York. So it just was it made things easier to survive.
Would you grow up in Chelsea?
I grew up in the
I'm kidding.
I grew up in the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Wow.
So it was like tough. It was like I'm very proud of where I came from.
So proud you'll never go back, right?
I mean, it's been gentrified now. It's not the same neighborhood.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I mean, I love being a New Yorker and I love where I grew up and growing up as a kid with, a quick mouth, a lot of talking, a lot of joking, a lot of teasing, but then being able to play sports kind of like levels that whole thing. You're not like the weird kid.
Yeah.
Teasing everybody or, talking all of the time.
That's cool, man.
But then you could play sports, so that always helped.
And you played basketball and baseball?
I played everything, but primarily like basketball and baseball.
That's cool, man.
And I enjoyed it a lot. Is this how you guys wrap up these podcasts?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's get
to it. Let's get to it. I thought what you said. This is what you said to me when you pitched this podcast to me. Kenny, come on the podcast. It's a very emotional kind of podcast. We're going to ask hard-hitting, deep questions, introspective questions. More than likely, you will cry. And I was all for it because I'm feeling very vulnerable at this point in my life. But I'm happy that we got.
Do you want to hear the question that I put in my back pocket?
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
Why do you feel like, and I could be wrong, but why do you feel like you have negative energy sometimes towards watching stand-up? Like, why aren't you a fan of stand-up? That's how I perceive you.
Okay.
I think you love comedians, and I think you love the scene, but you are not a fan of jokes.
I'm not. That's untrue. I am a fan of jokes. I love jokes. I love the science of jokes.
Then why don't you like watching?
Because a lot of you suck. You guys are all very, very bad. And not you,
okay,
President, just the producers.
I'm kidding.
watched really great comedians for my whole life.
Yeah.
For 16 years, I came up with really, really strong comedians who were like, you know, doing very impressive things on stage. And then I opened for very powerful comics who were just crushing on stage.
Yeah.
And just like really like super. I love jokes.
But you're just, I mean,
It's hard to watch. It would be like being a fan, like you love cars. This is actually, I love analogies. This is the analogy. Let's say you love cars, but you work at a place that demolishes cars, that like just crushes the machine. That was your job.
yeah.
And then, you know, every once in a while, like most times, but the difference is the cars that they're bringing are cars that you like, which would be the jokes and the analogy, and then just watch them, and just like that's what it feels like. It would hurt you. It would be like, no, actually, I should probably go to a place where they like are polishing and cleaning cars, you know?
So you don't like seeing comedians do bad?
I don't like watching comedians that I know are gonna do bad.
Oh.
And the
That's why my ex would never come to my shows, because she knew I was gonna suck.
She did you a favor.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I there's a couple that comes a lot to the open mics, and they're like a little attractive couple. And I wanna say to her, do you plan on fucking this guy for a long time? Then stop coming to these shows. And she's a big fan of his. She's like, oh, he's funny. And I'm like, look, there's no way he's funny.
Dude.
You just can't be funny on stage yet in a way that like really counts.
Yeah.
And like, I also, and this is probably like the real reason of it, is that I'm aware that like first impression of you as a comic is going to stay with me for a long time. The first time that I watch you do stand-up, that's going to stick with me. That's, you know, and so, and I know it's going to be bad. And what's funny is that like, I'll ask them like, hey, how do you think it went? And you know, another thing that people don't really know is that I do listen. I'll kind of hang out behind the thing. I think people do get freaked out when they see me. So I'm mindful of it. So just kind of like peek in and listen. And really what I'm looking for or listening for is the comedian able to change the temperature of the room from the previous comedian? And there's just not too many people that can do that. And so I want to wait till you guys get good, or like if I can actually be constructive with like, you know, with some advice or a critique. And what I noticed though a lot in this business is that people want you to give them the answers, even though they say that they don't. They'll be like, watch my set and tell me how they want affirmation on something, you know?
Yeah.
But really what they want is like, they want you to like give them the tag. They want you to like almost write a joke for them. And it's one of the things that I really appreciate about you and Adam specifically. I think Adam was your guest a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely.
I don't know when
Adam
it comes
Clayton,
out.
yeah, he was. It already is out. Thank you for watching.
But I didn't watch.
Okay.
I saw like a little clip. I just kept it on the phone
Yeah,
in
whatever.
the background
Yeah, okay.
for a long time.
It doesn't matter, dude. Uncle Laser, I like they're real today.
Who's that now?
Uncle Laser?
One more time.
Uncle Laser. He liked our reel, so it's no big deal.
Oh, he liked the real.
Yeah, he's
how
a
much
big...
money? How much money you get for that?
Nothing, but...
Hang on one second. So it's a big deal that a person likes a thing.
But he's been on Kill Tony all the time.
He's been on the Kill Tony show.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What a claim to fame.
Yeah.
I've never been on the Kill Tony show.
So why am I fucking interviewing
It's
you,
a
dude?
good point. The presumption would be that he's a stronger comic than me.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. He does have more followers than I do.
But go back to what you were saying, because I'm
want to. You should
curious.
get
No,
Uncle Laser here now.
seriously, stop.
Okay.
Because I'm curious about this. When we were coaching that one time, you're like, dude, I'm not going to write jokes for you. And I was like, who does this guy think I am? Like, coming to him to write jokes. And he didn't say it like that.
this is the way that it happens, right? People try to sneak it in.
How?
They go like this. They go, hey, I'm working on this bit. And I go, and then they want you to be like, oh, you should say this here or that here. That's what I mean by like writing the joke for you.
It just feels so...
So like what you're trying to do is you're trying to like, and I will help from time to time. Like I'll give a suggestion. But think about like even with like you're sharing bits with someone else, you're like, I feel icky using that punchline because this guy gave me that punchline.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. And I think a lot of people like taking the easy way out. And for me, it's like, it's so many dimensions to it. Like I don't want to watch your shitty comedy. You know, I don't want to be mean to you and tell you it's shitty, because I do think it's shitty. Like no one's moving and galvanizing a crowd in a very real way, and that's hard to do. And like I'm a little I wouldn't say jaded, maybe spoiled or maybe delusional, but like I really feel like I was around a bunch of comics that were able to like really like move a crowd a certain way. And there's just not a lot of people that are able to do that right now. And I also think people's appetites and attention spans are shorter, so it's harder to move a crowd in a very real way. And I am jaded. Like I've watched so many comedians be terrible for so long, and like, you know, there just comes a point when you get really good, and then that's when I'll be like, oh, okay, let's see what you're doing now. Like now we're running the marathon. Why do I want to? That's really what it is. I just gave myself my own answer from talking so much. That's what it is. I don't want to start watching until you're actually running the marathon. Start running the marathon, and then I'll come peeking.
Yeah, it's like we don't watch the Eagles play practice.
No, it's a closed practice. You should be experimenting in there. Like it is a jam session when you're learning to practice. You know, like. I think enough comics don't think of it enough that way. Like, hey, I'm in the studio right now. I'm jamming. I'm riffing. Wow. I'm trying to like, you know, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this. I do say this quite often, but like, I don't believe that there's only one kind of bomb, and it's when you bomb with jokes that you know already work. That's a bomb. That
you've tested over 100 times or whatever.
You've tried it. You've done it. You usually get a laugh. You're like, you're getting to like, oh, I've done this 25 times. This is the first time it didn't work. That's a bomb.
Yeah.
It's not a bomb when you try a new joke for the first time and it doesn't work. That joke didn't bomb.
That's just jamming out.
You're jamming, baby. You're playing around. You're experimenting. You're like you're in the studio. Normally a musician would never be in the studio and be like, "Oh, I bombed." He might be like, "That sucked."
Yeah.
But he wouldn't be like, "Oh my God, maybe he might say we bombed the studio session today if they were like everybody was fucking up. The producer was fucking up. The engineer was fucking up. Everybody, you know, that's a bomb. We wasted our time.
Yeah.
But I still think that they might just say, "Oh, we sucked." They might say but they would say, "Oh, that show, we bombed that show," because they're doing the good shit and it didn't work for whatever reason.
Exactly.
Like you said yesterday, "Oh, I didn't do this punchline in the right way. I didn't do it this way." Like there's a reason why something didn't work always.
Definitely.
And so when you're doing a joke for the first time, what the hope is that you're just trying to get comfortable saying it into the microphone. You're trying to convince these people who may or may not be interested in the jokes, as is. And you're just trying to see if it makes you laugh, if it's worth developing. And then you take that premise or you take whatever that thing is and you try to bring it to a real show or some other mic.
And that's the value of open mics as well.
That's what you're doing. You're jamming in the studio. It's a studio session. You're in the studio. And this is why, like, you know, people will say to me, "Oh, why do you charge for the open mics?" You can't go into a studio and jam for free. You got to pay you got to pay the producers to the studio. You got to pay an engineer. You got to like. So what do you think? I'm supposed to just give you the space to practice?
Yeah, so you can say jokes about transsexual.
You pay to practice. That's what it is. This is the gig.
I have one last question for you.
You can ask as many questions as you want.
Well, he's going to fucking kill me if I say any longer. And this is good, but I want to have you back.
Okay. Part 2?
Part 2, like mood swings.
Do I wear the same clothes?
Same clothes.
Okay, keep going. What's the next question?
So when you're getting...
How long are these podcasts normally?
Usually like 30 to 45 minutes. And we've been going for how long, Alex?
1 hour right now.
1 hour.
Jesus,
Wow.
Alex, bro. You didn't even say nothing, bro.
The first hour episode,
Let's go, baby.
Good stuff.
Has it been good, Alex? Like,
It's been good. Both of those cameras died.
Oh.
So we're relying on one camera.
No
way, bro. Unbelievable.
It just happened like 5 minutes ago.
Oh,
right.
5 minutes ago?
Alex, wrap it up then. Let's go.
5 minutes ago?
Yeah, we're good. We got some
Okay,
good
cool,
stuff.
cool,
This
cool,
is
cool.
good camera, though.
Yeah. So out of all of the times that you've asked someone, how did you do? How did it go when they're getting off stage? Open micers,
I don't ask
comedians.
that question.
What do you ask?
I ask, did you have fun?
Okay.
It's very important to me from an artist's perspective to have fun because of all the things that you're sacrificing to be in that place, to jam and to practice. The reason that you're starting in the first place is because something somewhere told you, this seems fun. So it's important to me, even when I was doing stand-up a lot, I would, when the headliner would, did you have fun? And then they go, fuck yeah. Or they felt like
So
work.
what are some of the most popular responses from not headliners to that question, did you have fun, that you've seen over the years? What's like a theme with people, if any?
I find that most people don't know how to answer the question, which really tells me the caliber of intention that they're putting into what they're doing. the answer should be yes or no. It's not a deep existential question.
But they typically probably don't say yes or no.
They don't
right?
they don't know how to say yes or no. They think that they want to give the right answer, and there's no right answer. It's really just yes, I had fun. No, I didn't have fun. That's really all I care about. And then we can kind of get to like the nuts and the bolts. Like, how were they? Oh, they were good. What'd you like about them? I like this. What'd you like about your set? But more oftentimes, as you have fun, you can, oh man, that's no.
Yeah.
Just say no. I did not have fun. It's okay to not have fun. Just say no.
Yeah.
Why didn't you have fun? I didn't just. Usually, it's fun when you do well, not fun when you didn't do well.
Yep.
But it's always your fault.
Definitely. And that's why I asked that question in the beginning, because I'd rather have the mindset that it was my fault than it's the crowd's fault.
Yeah, it's accountability.
Wouldn't that suck? Yeah, exactly. Accountability.
People are afraid to take accountability. They want to blame something else.
And now this is now coming into an entrepreneur podcast.
Okay.
We're going motivational mindset. If you had to give anyone any piece of advice, this is the final question. Comedian or not, just anyone watching this, anything about life. I look up to you. You're a great friend, but I look at you as a mentor as well. So I don't get too comfortable with you.
Okay.
What piece of advice would you give to anyone watching this? Something
I got two.
Okay.
You got to dream big. You got. If people aren't laughing at your dreams, then your dreams aren't big enough. And it's okay to dream big. Like, be delusional. And then number two, which is my favorite piece of advice, is you got to jump, and the net will appear. A wise man once said that. He's dead now, but it doesn't matter. But I believe in that wholeheartedly. You do have to like trust in yourself that you can figure it out, because you can.
Absolutely,
and
man.
You will.
And you did with Sunshine and Clearwater. You are the net.
No, I'm not the net.
But you fell into a net.
No, there's no net. But I know that like I'm gonna figure out how to fly. I'm not worried about it. Every situation that I'm in, I'm comforted by, because there's one common denominator in that situation, and that's me.
Which is what? Okay.
And I know I'm gonna figure it out, come hell or high water. And I think that enough people don't have. I have like delusional confidence in myself, and like I think I keep it low. But I know I'm going to be good. I've been good at everything. So why wouldn't I be good? It would be more of a surprise if it didn't work. And I think people are uncomfortable hearing that.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that in themselves. And I'm aware of that, so I sometimes won't share it. But I do believe that like I know everything's going to
Absolutely will, bro.
And I have everything in life is evidence. I got the evidence already. In a court case, they present evidence. I got evidence. Do you want me to show you the evidence? I'll go get it. It's here. It's here. It's here. It's here. I got evidence all over the place, and that builds me, and that fuels me, and that strengthens me. That propels me. But I'm also a part of that delusion. Is you're afraid. You're like, is this gonna work? Is this not gonna work?
Yeah.
I think that's like being human. You got to be you can't just be like running. Oh, there's a fire. I know I can get through the fire. You got to like bring everything into the equation. Sorry to hold you up for an hour, Alex. My bad.
No, that was a great way to end it, man. Kenny, I just want to say thank you one more time.
We don't have to do part two.
No, why?
No.
And we're going to do heroin tonight. I'll be at Sunshine.
You're going to do heroin.
Okay. You're not doing heroin tonight? Okay. Well, thank you for having us.
My pleasure.